We look really approachable. We both sit with our arms crossed. So do you ever have days, like, and it might be a redhead thing, where you're just, like, waiting for somebody to test you because you need, like, to get out that little bit of aggression, like, too many things have piled on lately. You're like, please somebody test me so I can just lose my shit on somebody and get some of this, like, frustration out.
That could have been any day in the last 24 hours. It could have been yesterday, could have been today.
I feel like that's where I'm at. And I don't know if it's, like, the frustration of last quarter, like, all building, but, like, I feel like I'm just kind of, I feel bad because I feel like the wrong person is going to inadvertently be the one to, like, push that button.
Yeah.
And, like, be kind of shell-shocked, like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
But I know it's coming.
Yeah.
Because I'm a bottler.
Yes.
Like, I bottle things up, and then, like, I'm like the little guy on the Warheads package, like, with his head on fire. That's me.
So, like, I think partially for me it's because really my new year work year is, like, just starting. My kids just went back to school. So, yesterday was their first day back.
Oh, God.
And so I'm, like, I've been at home this whole time, and, like, but in the same token, it's not like I've not been working. Mm-hmm. It's just working differently, right? Like, I've done open houses, I've closed, I've put things under contract, I've gained new clients. It's like all that's still happening, but it's just happening at a different pace. And so yesterday was my first day back in the office, and, like, everyone wants to pop in and be like, hey, I'm so-and-so, are you new here? You know, it's just like, and then, you know, I anticipated it happening, but, you know, my team, like, the person on my team, like, came in and sat in my office, and it was just like, I just want to focus for today. Yeah. But it was like, I had all of that building, and it's like, I feel the pressure of, like, being back at the office just for it to be MLK Day on Monday and my kids not have school again.
I love how that works.
Plays out. Okay. And then, you know, not sleeping last night because of James had an ADHD medication change. And so he was up until 4 a.m. and, you know, he's like a zombie this morning, and, you know, it's just not fair for a 6-year-old. And I felt awful. I mean, he kept telling me, I'm trying. I'm like, I know, buddy, it's not your fault. It's not your fault, honey. Like, and, you know, and then he had a stomach ache this morning, and he had a headache this morning, and all of that is ADHD medication. And so I emailed his doctor this morning, and I was like, we are not going up on dose. I don't care if there's, like, a period, like, where this is going to get better. It's clearly not affecting his body in a way that I'm comfortable with as his mom. And, I mean, I just feel bad for him. I mean, it's just power to the moms that have ADHD kids, because I felt awful for him last night. He was so good. But so I'm just like, just give me that one thing to make me pop off today, and it's going to happen.
And I feel like that's all it takes is just, and it's like this week I went to a breakfast meeting with one of my agents for, like, planning one-on-one.
Yeah.
And completely incognito, I felt like. No makeup on, just, you know, slumming it. And we're, like, finishing our breakfast, and this mortgage guy comes over, and he's, like, in our face giving us his card. Oh, I've been meaning to meet with you. I'm like, then call. Like, don't interrupt my meeting with my agent. I mean, it could have been a client. It could have been anything. Like, call like a normal person.
Or if you're going to approach, just say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I just want to leave my card. Yep.
Yeah.
Be polite about it.
Right. And I'm just like, and I just think that there's, in business, like, if you know somebody's in a certain business and you see them out and they're very clearly not in that business mode.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm slumming it, don't talk to me. I mean, it's just a rule. Like, if I'm at the grocery store and I'm slumming it, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Don't act like you know me. I mean, I'm not going to be offended. I hope you're not going to be offended. But, like, we don't know each other.
Yeah.
This version of me does not know you. So, like, I just feel like, I don't know.
That's like going back to our gym conversation. It's like when I'm like a lobster. I'm like, no. Yeah. Like, wait till I put the 7 pounds of, like, cover up on my rosacea. Right. Like, let's not do this today.
Let me put my work face on.
Like,
my peopling face.
Yeah.
Has to be
I'm not very peoply right now.
No, I'm not cuddly. I'm not in a space to pretend to care what you're talking about.
Or, like, you know, if I've It's like I was at a park with my kids, and I get that there's like a parent camaraderie where you do like get it, but like I was in the middle of like Everett was having a meltdown. It was like close to his nap. We were trying to leave. He was like falling on the ground. Like James is whining because he doesn't want to leave, and I am trying to just leave, like leave the area.
Yeah.
Like I'm sweating. I am
Right.
I am like, oh, I need out of here. And someone's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in forever. And I'm like, what about me sweat? Like I am dripping with sweat. My kids are having meltdowns that like, I want to sit and like chit chat with you because I don't. Like you're a cool person. I'm glad that we have done business, but like you still have to have respect for like where people are in like their day.
Yeah, I think for situations like that, it needs to be just like the Hunger Games salute. Like you're just like, okay, I see you. This
your
is just
pain.
me acknowledging I see you and
Yes.
hope you're having a great day. Like I don't need the
Yes.
conversation part. Just like,
Yes.
unless you're going to bring me a glass of wine with this conversation, it's not the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
100%.
yesterday I was watching a TikTok and it was an agent and she was talking about how burnt out she is because her clients like expect her to do everything from like picking up their dog poop to like running all their errands and all of this other stuff. And I think that
Do you not set a boundary?
well, and that's what she was asking. Like, how do you set your boundaries with clients? Like, I think my
My
face
job is
sets the boundary that I am not cleaning up
Your
your
dog
dog's
shit.
excrement. Like, not going to do it.
Not going
I
to pick up your
mean,
dry cleaning. Like, that's not in my list
no,
of duties.
if you want to pay me a fee up front and I will hire trades out to do those
Sure.
things, or if you would like to pay people, I can recommend people that will do those
Sure.
things. But I'm not the one.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do a lot for a deal.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between somebody just needing something on the fly to make a deal work and just having zero respect for your personal boundaries
Yeah.
at all. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's what that is. Like, she's taught people how they can treat her
Yeah.
and that she's going to just deal with it and do whatever, they ask of her.
Yeah.
And so now nobody's going to respect a boundary.
No, because it's hard to backpedal off that. Because if you ever get a referral from the person that
Right.
you decided to pick up their dog poop, then that next person is going to expect that. And the next person,
Exactly.
and if you say, I'm not doing that, then they're going to be like, well, you did it for Amy Jo or whatever. And it's like, well, you're not Amy Jo. Like, how do you get it
Right.
and get it round? Like, how do you backpedal
Yeah,
out of
and
that?
if you consistently did it for Amy Jo,
Right.
and like now Bobby Sue is asking for it on the fly, and you can't justify, well, you did it multiple times for her. It wasn't a one-time
right.
deal, right before a showing. And that's the worst. One of my agents in the office, she actually had a listing in New Braunfels, cute little listing, would have been very marketable, short-term rentable, all of the things. But the lady had like 5 dogs, big dogs, like German Shepherds, Mastiffs, big dogs,
Lots of hair.
big poop. Would not clean it up. So the feedback on some of these showings was we got out of the car, we would not even go in the house because walking up the sidewalk, you could smell it. And then like you could smell it coming from the house.
Yeah.
And so my agent tried everything from, trying to get her to hire somebody to clean it up, get an ozone machine in the house to get that smell out of the air. No, she wouldn't do it. And so, this particular client got frustrated because her house wasn't selling and wanted to pull it off the market. And I was having the talk with my agent. I'm like, that's a good thing. There is no use in you spinning your wheels, spinning your wheels, spinning your wheels, spending your money,
Yeah.
marketing a house that she's not going to do her part to sell.
Right.
Nobody wants the crap house.
Right.
Like,
Right.
doesn't matter. Plus, it was overpriced.
Yeah.
So I think that some people need to get real about what is and isn't our job. We're not your maid.
No.
It's different if we come in and it was a showing on the fly and we need to just pick up, you left some things out on the counter this morning or
Yeah.
throw some
Sure.
dishes in the dishwasher. But
Sure.
like, I'm not going to dust your whole house.
Well, and I
or
can't tell you we always send photo ready checklist, right? And I always
Mm-hmm.
tell people like, don't see it as a list of demands. There's a lot of things on here that are in bold that are like these are non-negotiables, like
Right.
things like don't have your dishes out, like put your laundry away, shove things in closets. I don't care, but don't have it out in any of the main spaces. But there's so many times where I have shown up to photos that the house is a disaster. Like, they have moving boxes everywhere. Like, and I am like on photo day, I never dress professional. Like, I am in a t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know that like 99% of the time I am not walking into a photo ready house. And so I am like primping pillows and putting stuff away and hiding things. And especially with Matterport and video these days, it's harder and harder to do that. Like, your house just needs to be ready. And if you're not, tell me, because it is unbelievably frustrating to have my photographer show up who travels to get there. And it's not a short distance where my photographer comes from, to call them on the way and be like, oh, sorry, they're not ready.
Yeah, because we get charged either way.
Yeah, 100%. And then I get a re-trip fee.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's just, that's why I love new construction. I get in there, the house is vacant, it's brand new, everything's pristine.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to get great shots, but I don't think some people are aware of the way they live either. And the amount of memories they collect through all of these things that they have cluttered in their house. And like my own grandma is the world's worst. Like every wall is covered with something, and everything has a tchotchke on it. And, you know, I think people hold so much of like their emotional self and all this stuff.
Yes.
But for selling, it has to be edited. Like, get
It
a
needs
mini
to look
storage,
looks
get
like a
something.
model home. It needs to look like a model home. Like, that's what I tell people. I'm like, I don't want you to necessarily look like HGTV, but if you need to know what a house looks like, I don't even care if it's a DR Horton. Walk into a spec home that is staged. That's what your house needs to look like. All the time. Every showing, photography, all the time.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality. So it is so hard because a lot of times I can't make it there the day before to make sure that it's photo ready. Like, at the end of the day, you hired me to sell the house, and you can't get mad at me because you didn't get your house ready in time. Because I'll say, when do you want photo? Like, what's your date to go live? What date do you want to go live? Great. Photos are typically done 24 hours in advance, or 48 maybe. And
man, you're quick then.
Yeah.
I have to take like a week between photos and then going live.
I normally do mine like two days ahead of time. And that's because I know that they can't like screw it up in that week, right? Like, we're going to go live, and then my first showings, they still kept it clean.
I think your faith in people is
is
higher than mine.
I've always had pretty good luck with that, because then it's like they don't have enough time to like turn around and mess
they
up
must not
that
have kids
bad.
like mine, because I feel like I can pay a cleaning lady and within 24 hours it looks like she was never there. I mean,
do have a client that
my girls are like, I mean, I call the little one Glitter because she leaves a piece of her everywhere she goes. I mean, that backpack never makes it to her bedroom after school. And
I do have a client that is struggling. They have 4 little kids, like all second grade and younger. And so they are on the market. And so they have 2 dogs. And the dogs aren't messy or anything. And it's just
like, it's not the dogs that are the problem, it's your children.
And they know that. And they know that. But it's just, I mean, I have kids. I get it. It is atrocious. And 3 of her kids are boys. And boys just have stuff. And
girls are not any better.
Probably older girls. Her daughter is pretty.
Makeup?
Yeah, older girls are worse. That's what I'm saying.
It's terrible.
I mean,
when they're young, it's like Barbie shoes and like 50 little pieces that go to the one thing. Like the Legos. It's like the Polly Pockets or the Legos.
It's just stuff that you can kind of shove in like a dollhouse and it will be hidden enough.
Yeah.
But boys, it's like massive trucks and monster trucks and truck tracks and Hot Wheels tracks. Like, I have a Hot Wheels garage that's 3.5 feet tall in my playroom right now. And I'm like, and on top of that, we have a like basketball hoop thing that folds up, but it's like an arcade basketball hoop thing. And I'm like, if we ever had to move, like, my kids would have 0 toys.
In those cases, I just don't have that room photographed.
Yeah.
I just don't. And I very rarely do Matterport anyway. One, because I think it's kind of a security risk that I don't personally feel comfortable with, because, I mean, you're giving somebody on the internet the whole floor plan to your house.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just, that feels icky to me. But, yeah, there's nowhere to hide anything with Matterport. And
See, Matterport is so important. Matterport is so important in my business because we have so much relo
yeah.
that people want to be able to know and walk the house prior to actually
See, I'll
getting here.
walk it for them and
Yeah.
do like a video tour, or sometimes I'll have, like, Nate would do the virtual floor plan.
Yeah.
But as far as the Matterport itself and having it publicly posted,
Yeah.
sometimes I have issues. And then, some higher end clients that have like
Yeah,
art collections.
that makes sense.
Things like that, they don't want.
Yeah, luxury is a whole nother ball
Yeah.
game, but I do think for like the general, for a lot of my business, Matterport is so vital. And I had a client recently who they just closed on their house, and she was ultimately so frustrated because very, very seasoned buyer. And she was so frustrated because when I had sold their house, I had done Matterport on their house, and they had a big house. It was like over 4,000 square feet, so it made sense. She said that she was so frustrated because she can write stuff off easily just by knowing the layout, and the pictures are not always really great
Right.
at knowing the layout. And so she was like, I always now look for Matterport. And she goes, I wrote a lot of houses off because they don't have it, because I just can't get a sense of where I am. And I'm always happy to go do a video tour, but because she was seasoned, she knows that by either drive by or by doing Matterport, she can write it off and not have to, what she says, waste my time, which I can appreciate that.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
then she doesn't waste your time either showing
Right.
her houses that she knows she doesn't like.
right. And I mean, very quick. Like, she would be in a house for 15 minutes, and I mean, in the first minute, if she walks in the entryway, she can be like, nope.
Yeah.
If we're in a house for more than 15 minutes, it's like, oh, this is a contender. And so Matterport was so vital to her. And it was one of those things where she was like, I refuse to not, she's like, if they're not willing to give me a floor plan or to give me something where I can understand the layout, she's like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So
Have you noticed, and I've noticed this in our MLSs that we're using, that since the market and kind of the economy changed, that you're seeing more bad listing photos, like more agents doing it themselves, and you can tell, and then they don't even take the time to load them correctly. You see
So-
some where the toilet's upside down, and
Yeah.
toilet seats up,
or
horrible lighting,
they've
and
screenshotted it from their iPhone, so it's got like the black on either
yeah,
side.
like that kind of thing. I'm
Yeah.
seeing that a lot.
Or they're like the little itty bitty thumbnail. They uploaded like the size,
Yeah.
not the right
And
size.
I'm seeing it across different price points that I never
Yeah.
thought I would see it in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you are listing a property that is, I mean, I would say even over 300,000, and that agent doesn't have a professional come shoot your photos,
Yeah.
you need a different agent.
Yeah, for
Because your agent is a joke.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
it's just, and if as an agent you can't afford the initial investment to pay for photography, you should be a buyer's agent
Yeah.
and not try to take on listings right now, because it's not fair to your client that when a buyer is on Zillow or wherever your buyer is looking, MLS search or whatever, they're passing on your house because your photos are terrible.
Yeah. That's your first impression.
It's the first date,
yeah. And
and
it's hit or miss. I
yeah,
mean,
and
I've seen so many, and especially in my area, production builds are so popular. And so at some level, especially in certain price points, it's like you've seen that floor plan over and over and over again. So I think at some point the mentality is, well, they've seen the floor plan, so it's just they need to generally see what the finishes are. And the lights have like that star effect on them, and
there's
they're
20 different kinds of bulbs in the
and
fixtures,
it's-
and
and I think it's just at some level I'm like, you're just doing your client a disservice.
it is a
and-
major disservice.
And I'm just I just feel like we shouldn't be going backwards. There's always going to be a fresh new photographer that's newer into real estate photography that's not going to charge the same amount as someone who's has all of the equipment. You can still get decent photos that are brushed up for, you know, for a lesser price. And they're just not going to be as good as someone like if we're using Nate or you're using your other person or I'm using Tormax. Like, it's not going to be the same level, but it's not your phone. Like,
Right. And I think that's
where you see the
that's
person's
the
arm
issue.
in the mirror.
Or their
Like,
thumb.
Yeah.
You see the outline of their thumb, and you're like,
They take
really?
the photo from sitting in their driver's seat.
Yeah, you
as they're
see their,
driving
like,
away.
side mirror
Yeah, you
and
see
their-
their, like, the side of their
I'm
car.
like, I just think it's so sad, and it like just devalues what we do anyway. Because they're like, well, look at these pictures. They didn't even invest a couple $100. I mean, you can get pretty decent photographer now just for base level pictures for a couple $100.
Yeah, that's about fair. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
and if
fair
you're
market
not
value.
willing to spend that, then you shouldn't be listing. Because honestly, I mean, on a lot of my stuff, I'm 1,000 to 2,000 deep before it
Easy.
ever goes live.
Easy.
So, and I know that, and I budget for that, and I make sure that, you know, I don't take on things that are going to be like super crazy to market if I don't have the budget to do that.
yeah.
You know, so I just don't get it. I mean, I know things are harder with the market change, but I think that instead of downgrading your services, this is where you should be upgrading your services to stand out. You know, and I don't think some agents are really understanding that.
Yeah, opportunity is knocking. And
Yeah.
this is the best time for you to be able to set yourself apart. And not just in that service, like, you know, I depending on the listing, I will also offer to get a like a cleaner through. Like, you know, so I know the chandeliers are not dusty, and it's the stuff that, like, as just a homeowner in general, you don't think about. Like, when usually, like, everything will be wiped down, you know, they've swept and mopped and whatever, but it's the other stuff.
But then the air register has like a beard on it. And you're
Right.
like,
And there's, you know, it's fly season, and there's like 40 dead flies on the windowsill, and you're like, ooh.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Or
those.
the baseboards have like a cool layer of dust all across the top,
Right.
and you're like,
It's those types of things where I'm like, well, let me get a maid in for you. Let me take the stress off of you feeling like you have to have this house pristine. Let me hire a professional that'll make it pristine for you. Like, that is something that I will offer to some of my clients. I mean, depending on the house, if they're like a clean freak, then it's great. But that's like something I would offer to my clients. So, because it is really stressful to like be like, well, what am I forgetting? And what do I have to do? And how do I have to clean? And
well, and juggling their current life.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
And-
life doesn't stop because you have your house on the market.
No. And, you know, I have this client, he's super laid back, but he's a bachelor.
Oh.
And so, like, when I went to list his house, it was like walking into a frat house. And not in like that there was beer and stuff everywhere, but it was like, there was like a college flag on the wall that was like a wall decor,
Bless his heart.
and like a futon, and like,
Where are there the antler mounts?
no,
I
because
feel
he's,
like that's a very bachelorish
no,
kind
because
of
he's
thing.
not from Texas, but it was
Okay.
like he did have like a bookshelf, and it did have like every type of like beer pint glass like known to man on it, and I was just like with like the like Christmas lights kind of like shoved in
Yeah.
them, and I was like, yeah, we're just gonna pack those. Like,
Yeah,
love
yeah.
your. I was like, I love your collection, but if someone comes in, they have kids. There's a really good chance that the kids are gonna knock that over. Like, I always like blame everything on kids. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they could break that. Like, so let's just pack those away.
Well, and really, that's a good point for any seller. If you have something in your house that is extremely valuable to you and easily breakable and out in the open, you might want to pack it somewhere secure.
Yeah.
Because people you don't know will be in your house. And we do what we can as agents to mitigate that, but every now and then stuff just happens, you
Yeah.
know, and generally speaking, when it happens and it was my responsibility to watch, I end up having to foot the bill for whatever these demon children broke or whatever. I mean,
Yep.
but if it's like your great grandmother's china from, you know, wherever, pack it. Mm-hmm. Like, don't risk it being broken, being stolen, being anything. Just pack it, especially with open houses and everything.
The same goes for art. Like, and I'm like, I would rather you buy a $40 canvas and
go to Kirkland's,
and buy some generic whatever and put it on the wall than have like your Mona Lisa remake on the wall and someone has like hit it or touched it and the oils from our hand messed it up. Like, I don't want that bad juju. Like, I don't want it.
Right.
And the other thing I tell usually higher end clients, look, I tell all my clients this, but I tell my higher end clients because they're usually very particular about their furniture. Mm-hmm. And so I tell them, hey, look, this is my suggestion and you can take it or leave it. People inevitably are going to, they're not everybody, but there are going to be people inevitably that will sit on your furniture. Mm-hmm. They're going to touch your furniture. And that's just the way it's going to be. I said, if you don't want it, then we need to I'll put in agent marks. We can put a sign as they walk in. I said, but just like there are at Parade of Homes, we need to rope off the furniture and have signs that say, please do not sit. And same on beds. For whatever reason, I have seen.
It happens all the time. I'm like, why are you sitting on their bed?
Or they do like the run and jump and like the flop down. I'm like, that is not yours, my friend.
Yeah, the kids are the worst at that.
Yes.
And, like, kids will go in other kids' rooms. And
play with their toys.
Yeah, want to play with their toys.
Yes.
And then it's so much more awkward because, obviously, we have to disclose if there's recording devices in the house.
Right.
Well, it gets super awkward when sellers aren't fully honest about what kind of devices they have recording. Mm-hmm. And then they call after they told you they didn't have cameras in the house. That, I was watching or listening on camera and they did this, this, and this. And I'm like, one, you're not allowed to be listening to anything because it's against the law. And, like, we went over this. I had you sign that happy little disclosure saying you didn't have any recording devices. But it's always so awkward when you get the feedback of, like, this agent was letting them sit on my furniture and, touching my things. And I'm like,
it's going to happen.
Yeah, they opened my bathroom cabinet.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
I had a client get mad at me because someone, they had outdoor cameras, and those were just closed. But the kids took their shoes off and were standing in, like, the shallow part of the pool. Granted, this was, like, the, like, part of summer that was, like, 100 and bajillion 4,000 degrees outside. So the kids were just standing with their feet in the pool. Like, I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, they didn't hurt anything, and I know that's not like the reaction I should have, but I'm like, all they did was put their feet in the pool.
Yeah.
Like, there's chlorine in it. Like,
right. It's not like they stood there and peed in the pool.
Yeah, like they just, and like their shoes were all lined up. Like, they didn't touch any of the toys. They didn't do anything. They just stood with their feet in the pool. Like, that was it.
Oh my goodness.
My seller got really upset about it, and I was like, so I called the agent. I mean, what do you do? Like, in that situation, you call the agent and then you say, hey, my seller was upset because their kid put their feet in the pool. But it's like, what is that going to accomplish? Like, I'm not going to, if something broke, something is missing, that's a whole nother thing. But to just call an agent and say, hey, my seller was upset because their feet were in the pool, what is that accomplishing?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing that agent can even do about it.
No.
Going forward. So, I mean.
And did you just turn off the buyer? Because you got upset that they put their feet in the pool. Like, at some level, I do think that buyers and buyers agents need to be smart and, like, say, these are kind of the ground rules for showing, and this is what we do. These are our do's and do's nots. And what I do when people are showing with kids is I usually have, like a little mini set of rules. But I always have, when I know that there's going to be kids, I always have, like, snacks for the car and a trash bag for the parent and like activities to keep the kids occupied, and just kind of like a list of like do's and do's nots. And then at the same time, the sellers need to give a little bit of grace. Doesn't have to be a ton, but a little bit of grace for stuff like someone put their foot in the pool.
I had a house in Boerne, and I was there showing it because on my super high-end ones, I'm always there present for the showings. And this was an adult man. Shows up in, like, a Hawaiian shirt, a Trump shirt, a fanny pack, like, some weird shorts. He's a YouTube kind of star, I guess. runs from the back door and cannonballs into the pool fully closed. This is the first time I met this buyer. And so I can just imagine, like, if that seller, fortunately, that was an estate, so there was not like a
Active owner.
yeah. And luckily, the executor had a really great sense of humor anyway. And I don't even know if I ever told him that that happened, to be honest. But the guy ended up buying the house. So I'm
Now
like,
he knows he can do a sweet cannonball from front door to back door.
yeah. And I mean, it just, you have the weirdest things happen during showings.
You do.
And it doesn't matter how much common sense you think people just naturally have on how to conduct themselves in somebody else's home. They don't.
No.
So, like, if you just expect it or if you have certain rules, go ahead and outline those. We'll put it in showing instructions. We'll, let everybody be
Yeah.
aware because common sense is not common.
No.
So, go ahead and put that in black and white.
I had a buyer once that went through this. Like I was obviously in the house. Husband was asking me a question in another room. It had a fireplace that was a through and through to the outside, and he was talking about cleaning it and whatever. Ended up being gas. Anyway, I come back in through the kitchen. I knew that the wife was. She said that she was taking measurements, and so I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so I come back in, and she is full on taking inventory of the person's pantry, and I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And she was like, I feel like I know a lot about people by what they eat.
You don't need to know a lot about them.
I was like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Let's not touch other people's food. Like, again, that's common sense. Like, if you and I went out to lunch, I would just not stick my fingers in your food and be like, I thought I'd get to know
Yeah.
you. Like, no.
Although I did also, I get all the weird ones. So last year I sold a house and they literally bought everything. Food in the pantry, spices in the cabinets, plates, forks, everything. All my people did was pack their clothes and their toothbrush. That was it. Like they bought
That's odd.
every single other thing in the house. Their smoker on the back porch, their everything.
That's odd.
It was very strange. It worked for my client because they were moving out of state. So they're like, we
Great.
can literally make our whole move in the Escalade now. We don't
Yeah.
have to,
Rent
rent a
I
pod
get
or
furniture,
anything.
I get smoker, I get that, but like food in the
Everything.
pantry, plates, like silverware, I know they get cleaned, but like that's odd.
Sheets.
That's
I
odd.
don't want to sleep in somebody else's sheets. And I know I go to
odd.
hotels and I know it's like an irrational thing that I'll sleep in hotel sheets, but not.
That's just.
But
it's
it just seems weird, like
seems
to buy a
odd.
house and sleep in
It seems
and
really
be surrounded by everyone else's stuff.
Odd. That seems really odd.
Yeah, it was very strange, but I mean, it worked out for them because, like I said, they were moving to Georgia, so they didn't want to have to take anything.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I think moral of that story would be, if you're a buyer, try and have common sense in other people's houses. Like I think it's just a golden rule. Like
Yeah,
it just comes down
put
to the
your
golden.
hands in your pockets.
Yeah, it comes down to the golden rule of like, do unto others as you would want done unto you. And like, if you don't want people digging through your underwear drawer, maybe don't dig through somebody else's.
Yeah.
Like, just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Right.
I mean, there was not the last legal 1 and 2, but the legal 1 and 2 I did before that. So what, 2 years ago? A buyer was sued. Didn't buy the house, but was sued because there was a camera in the house, and I don't know if it was the husband or the wife, and it doesn't matter, but the seller sued the buyer because they were caught sniffing their underwear and shoving it in their pockets. And
People never cease to gross me out. I mean, I just, every time I think that I've heard like the weirdest fetish or whatever, like, this is why I don't people.
Well, and
because
this
you never know who the panty sniffers are.
Yeah, but it
like
ma-
till
it
you
makes-
catch them on camera doing
yeah, but
weird
it like
stuff.
makes me, if I ever did sell my house, it makes me like want to put cameras in my house because then I'm like, what are you doing to my stuff?
Yeah.
And I've never had that like thought before until I hear some of these stories where like there was I saw on TikTok there was an agent that got caught fornicating in a showing with a side piece.
Oh.
So husband showed up, or maybe it was the wife, I don't know. Significant other showed up to the house and was not doing a true showing, but was...
It was cheaper than a hotel.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, or I don't know, that person's place.
And
I don't know.
What is the recourse there? I mean,
I
obviously
would say lose your license.
Well,
if
yes,
you, get
you
turned
should
in.
lose your license for sure. I mean,
But
I just
divorce.
well, yeah. I mean, like,
if
I was the owner of that house, I'd be publishing that stuff.
Oh, it would be
on Facebook,
all over the
everywhere.
news. But that's the thing.
TikTok, YouTube.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm
Let's
just
make
like,
you famous.
Yeah, and people ask me all the time, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And I'm like, "Well, we really should probably. We don't go to the bathroom in other
No.
people's houses during
No.
showings. It happens, and I know that. So every time that I've ever listed a house, I'm like, hey, especially if you have kids, I get it. Someone's gonna have to go to the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
But I have like a sign. I'm like, please disinfect. And I always disinfect when I get home, but I'm like, please disinfect. Like, please make
Right.
sure that it's cleaned up. If you pee
Yeah.
on the floor, like, here's some Swiffer wet mops. Like,
Ugh.
I'm just like, I'm like, that's the one thing that is so hard about showings is like, people are like, well, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, let's find a gas station.
Yeah.
They're like,
Hold it like
Yeah.
a grown up. We
well,
passed 12 gas stations on the way here.
yeah, like,
You could have stopped. Yeah, it is. I mean,
and I get it with kids.
I get
Sometimes
it.
it's like,
Yeah,
when they gotta go, they
kids.
gotta go.
it never fails. You're walking through a showing and the little kid's like, Mom, I got to poop. And you're like,
100%.
what do you do?
Yeah, at least I have boys,
Yeah.
and I always have like a loose water bottle or something that I'm like, okay, like,
Right.
like here
Yeah.
you go, friend. But like, poop is like, oh well, we're leaving. Sorry, we're leaving.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that like diapers are another issue. If you
Yes.
need to change a diaper, you need to take it with you.
Don't put it in someone else's.
Yeah,
trash.
don't, because they're not in that phase of life. So they're not
Yeah.
checking that
And
powder
even
room
if,
trash
even
can.
if they are in that phase of
No,
life,
it's just disrespectful.
yeah. Other people's houses are not meant for your daily bodily functions.
No.
So just if you're a buyer, know your do's and don'ts, and if you're a
Yeah.
seller, like at
Have
so-
some patience
have
and a
s-
little bit of grace within reason.
And I get
you know.
calling me inventing, but like sometimes it is completely out of my control.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I'm there for the showing, you can't always control people's behaviors. Like,
Yeah.
what do you like?
Well, and that's the thing. Just calling me to vent and like want me to solve a problem that there's literally no current fix. I can't fix the past.
yeah,
Like,
I can't fix stupid.
oh God, I wish I could.
I would be a billionaire.
I don't have that skill. Like, I can try to influence stupid to quit, but I can't just fix it no matter how hard I try. So
No,
I
and
just ignore it.
I don't
I'm
think
like,
anybody can fix stupid, and
try to like take the air from it so it'll stop existing,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like,
I mean, I think that that one of my favorite phrases that I've heard is like, and it applies to a lot of things, and it usually gets applied to agents. It's like they walk among us. Like, just be aware. Like, they
well, that's
walk
what I
among
mean with the
us.
panty sniffers.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have like a sign on their forehead, hey, like I'm a weird dude who's gonna want to sniff your panties.
No, but like, and I'm like, I'm just like, the agent ended up getting sued too, but I was just like, I felt kind of bad for the agent because like, you're walking through the house and like, you might be working with one, like one person, and the other person's panty sniffing, and you walk in, you're like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Like, and so then it's just, and then as me, I'm like, well, shoot, how many other houses did they show, and how many panties did they sniff, and how many panties did they take? Like, what in the
Ew.
world?
Ew, ew, ew.
Like, that poor agent. Like, I did feel bad for that agent because I really
Well,
feel
and
like,
to get sued for that when, I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen that on any buyer questionnaire before showings. Like,
No, are
hey,
you-
do you have any creepy fetishes that I
Yeah.
need to be aware of before I start taking you through somebody else's house?
what's your OnlyFans tag?
Yeah. I need to see all socials and to see what kind of weirdo you really are behind
Yeah.
closed doors before I corner myself in a home alone with you.
Yeah.
And two, before I lose my license over something that you decided to do.
Yeah. And there's no controlling that. And it just goes to show that we can get sued for ridiculous things and have something on our record that like we had no control over whatsoever, but we get dragged into it because we represented that person.
Yeah.
But then again, at the same time, I don't, it goes to show you never really know people. You never really know them. For the record, I am not a panty sniffer or stealer.
No,
For the
no,
record.
me neither. It's never really been my thing. Like,
Nah, I'm good.
yeah, I'll purchase my own panties. Thanks.